Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole, Lore and Fray, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. Right now, we're kind of in this weird situation when it comes to the gaming community. Gaming right now is honestly in a new golden age. I don't know exactly what we should call this, whether we should call this like the Silver Age or like the Renaissance or what have you. But I do think like starting with the release of the Switch, we saw a very sudden turnaround in quality from the game developers. In that, like after a long period of absolute bullshit being shoved down our throats, stuff like BioShock, stuff like Red Dead Redemption, stuff like Mass Effect, like like Infamous, like all of these like really terrible, highly produced, highly regarded like AAA games that were really pushed by the gaming industry. Like 10, 15 years ago, these things were like kind of seen as like the pinnacle of video game design, the best games there are. Like these are the games of the year. These are the industry defining like masterpieces. But like after 2017, with like the advent of the Switch, and Japanese developers finally starting to like catch on to like HD development and actually putting out good games again, we kind of saw a collapse of that narrative in that like 5 years in, like several years after the release of the PS5 and Xbox Series X, we still don't have a single relevant game on those platforms, right? A lot of those games are getting cross released on PlayStation 4 and PC because there's just not enough demand for these new consoles because these new AAA games are just the same thing we've been getting for 10 to 15 years, and the general audience is getting very 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 tired of it. And as a result, the audience is moving more towards like smaller, highly produced, high quality games from developers with smaller budgets. Stuff like Animal Crossing, stuff like Sifu, stuff like Bayonetta 3. Like there are all these examples of all these like smaller games like actually becoming successful when 10 to 15 years ago they wouldn't. Like when Skyward Sword came out, when it had to compete against Skyrim, like a lot of people use Skyrim's existence as a justification as to like why they weren't even going to try Skyward Sword. All right. But now, years later, we have Breath of the Wild, we have the Link's Awakening remake, we have Tears of the Kingdom coming up next year, and where's our new Skyrim? Like we haven't gotten a new Bethesda game at all. That's been in any way relevant since the release of Skyrim. Like we're at the point now where these big AAA developers, like who threw everything they had in the past generation to like trick as many people as possible to buy their products, those consumers just aren't excited about video games anymore. Like even if they buy the newest Call of Duty, they're just doing it because they have nothing else to do, and they're just like, oh, let's just try the new COD just because it exists. They'll give them money, they'll buy the game, they'll play it for maybe a weekend, but they're just going to drop it again. And we're never ever going to get to that point again where Call of Duty is considered like the game of the year like it was back in like 2007. All right. We're at that point now where I think gamers are kind of rejecting the notion that like mainstream success and popularity is equivalent to like quality. All right. We are moving past that. It's but the thing is, that's the gaming community. That's like the actual gamers. What about like the influencers? What about the gaming journalists? What about like YouTubers? People like Donkey, people like RGT85, people like Demish, people like Arlo. Uh, Influencers are desperately trying to pretend as if we're still in like this gaming dark age. In fact, these guys are like trying to say that like gaming is worse than ever. I can't begin to tell you just how many times I've seen like Arlo or RGT or like Count Dankula, who I don't know who that is, but I did see a tweet from him talking about this. I have seen a lot of these people, a lot of these influencers, a lot of these big names, people that like uh, that viewers give money to talk about video games. People like Maximilian Dude, Dark Side Phil, the list goes on and on and on and on. I have seen all of these people come out and say, there's nothing to play. There's nothing to look forward to. There's nothing I'm excited for. There's nothing that like I'm really I'm really hyped for in the immediate future. Now, someone like me, someone who like actually likes games, is like drowning in video games. Like I've had to cut back. I've had to cut back on my game purchases because like I have like my career and I have like everything going on in my personal life. I'm trying to lose weight and stuff like that. I don't play as many games as I used to, but like, so I've been cutting back on a lot of games. So, it's been difficult getting through Bayonetta 3, Persona 5, Sifu I'm playing now. Tactics Ogre I had pre-ordered and I have it downloaded on my Switch. Haven't even touched it yet because I'm still hooked on Sifu, right? Like I have all these games on my wish list and like in my backlog that I need to get through. Metroid Prime 2 has been sitting on my list has been sitting on my shelf like untouched for months, even though I've committed to finishing it again this time after years and years of like starting playthroughs and never following through on it. I I feel like actual gamers are actually out playing games and like living their lives. But influencers, these YouTubers, like people who don't enjoy video games, are desperately trying to get clicks on their videos so they don't have to get real jobs. That's kind of how I feel like seeing Arlo talk about like Mario Rabbids. Like it's interesting to see like Arlo who has been a big advocate, the biggest advocate, I think, for the release of the Thousand Year Door 2, as Paper Mario purists have been talking about, have been referring to it as like a Paper Mario game a Mario game that like returns the form for the Thousand Year Door formula with turn-based RPG combat and original characters and like a real big focus on like an original story. Like Sparks of Hope, apparently, I haven't played it, actually fulfills that criteria. And a lot of people have been talking about that and bringing that up. But Arlo is not buying the game because he doesn't like how Ubisoft treats its employees. Now, I'm not sure how much I disagree with that personally, because I myself like have chosen to pass on the game for now because I don't like Ubisoft and I don't want to support their products. But the fact that Arlo, someone who's like this is the thing that he's been asking for years. Like the exact game he wanted. Like a Mario game with a story that took itself like seriously but had like, with sprinkles of humor like throughout it. Like the Paper Mario formula, all right? The original Paper Mario formula. Like that's been what been asking for years. And then when he finally gets it, he just decides like not to support it at all. Like he makes videos on No More Heroes 3 because like Marvelous gave him a copy and like he had to shill it or whatever. But he never talked about the game again. I imagine he doesn't like it very much. Like that's the thing I feel about with these influencers is that because they've made their hobby their career, they can't really enjoy it. They can't be like genuine about like how they feel about certain things because they always have to like mire it in this nonsense like, oh man, I'm so hyped, like, oh, it's gonna be crazy, guys. Like it's this never ending like circle of just finding things to complain about so people will like watch your videos essentially. A lot of these people like don't actually stream. I've noticed Arlo I don't think has a Twitch account. I've never seen him stream. I don't think Scott the Waz streams. Like I think if they did, they would kind of be exposed for not being all that good at the games they talk about, which is why these people kind of avoid doing it. The people who are like cover gaming news and cover like reviews of certain products, like they would be exposed at not being very good at certain things if they were to do that, right? Um, and that's the thing is if these guys like don't enjoy the products and if they're not good at them, if they don't like have anything of value to contribute or add to the conversation, why is anyone listening to them? Like that's kind of my view on this. Like with the video game donkey thing, when I sent that calling card, the Smith Syndicate came after him. I it kind of dawned on me, like going through his comment section and seeing what people were talking about. Like people were like repeating stupid jokes and like things from past videos. Nobody was talking about like the game itself at all. And you kind of get this impression that Donkey isn't influencing anyone. Like you either play Bayonetta and know he's full of shit, or you're a big Donkey fan who's never even heard of the franchise and are just watching this video because like, oh, Donkey uploaded a new video. Like you're not going, maybe you'll end up repeating what Donkey said, but what Donkey said was objectively wrong. Bayonetta 3 is not the worst Bayonetta. And I think most people who played the game will agree with me on that. Like 99% for sure. Like Bayonetta 3 is a great game, and I don't see Donkey's opinion really influencing the popular discourse on that subject. Like we're at the point now, I think, where there are so many influencers, so many of them saying so many different things about so many different franchises, that like a lot of them will contradict each other, and like you can't really establish a narrative the way you used to, right? Like back in 2013, people were ragging on like Kid Icarus Uprising and like Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for like having a mission structure. And I don't think that would be a thing that happens today. I think it would be like one of those things that like people really, really call out and condemn. Like we haven't had a repeat of like the Star Fox Zero debacle where we had these YouTubers like seriously pretend the game was impossible to play, which is just straight up not true. As I've demonstrated on stream several times, I love Star Fox Zero. Like, uh, it feels like gamers like me are playing games and ignoring the gaming community. The online gaming community is just pure trash. There is no redeeming qualities to it at all. You have a bunch of people like trying to manufacture controversies and trying to like stir up drama and like fight with gaming companies or with each other, but you don't have a lot of discussion about games. In fact, it really does feel like a lot of the talk among a lot of these big streamers is political in nature. I just saw like that long-haired guy whose name I can't even remember right now. The guy who looks kind of like Styx, exactly like Styx, only with like a super deep voice and like streams video games. I don't know his name. I don't care about him. I've seen a couple of like his shitty vlogs that somehow get like a million views. I saw him. I saw like he made uploaded a video talking about like Elon Musk owning Twitter. Why would your audience care about like Elon Musk acquiring Twitter? Like you're not adding anything new to that discussion. You're just like trying to convince people that like it's a bad thing because that's what the establishment wants. Like that's all these people are. They're puppets. Like they're paid shills to push agendas onto like an unsuspecting population. And we've seen that like several times with people like Donkey, with Aaron Hansen, with all of these people, like with Arlo. Like it just never really stops. And I think like the gaming community, there really needs to be like a very big pushback against online gaming culture because it has become a cesspit of just people like ranting about like things that nobody cares about. Like really, like if you're in the gaming community and like somehow making every game review about like politics, like if you're saying Bayonetta 3 was ruined because of like the ending, like I don't want to watch you. I don't care what you say about the game. Like I don't respect that opinion at all. And I can't be the only one to think this. I think the online gaming community is dead, but gaming itself is better than ever.